What is going on, guys? Came back on today. I didn't mean to make another video so quickly. It seems like I'm putting them out in droves lately. Just had a lot of things going on that I wanted to put out there as soon as possible, so I don't lose my memory on certain topics and subjects that I wanted to cover. A few weeks ago, I had posted a video on this channel about my C&P exams, my rating with the VA. So a couple of things, because lots of thoughts go through my mind. In kind, I also put out a video about, 65 and broke. 65 divorced and broke, right? When I say broke, what I mean is I have very limited income. I wasn't smart enough, like a lot of people, to save through my life. I wasn't smart enough to have a 401k at a company and keep transferring that 401k to different places I worked. Plus, I had a lot of jobs in my life. It would have been difficult at best. I wasn't smart enough to open a Roth IRA, individual retirement account, or anything like that. I wasn't smart enough to retire from a company with a pension. So all those things that people have, usually when you're retired, if you do it right, most people that do it right will have 3 or 4 streams of income when they retire. Those which I just mentioned. They'll have a pension from a company they worked at for 20 years. In addition, they'll have some type of savings account. And like I said, they might have an investment, Roth IRA, a mutual fund. Like there are so many options open when you're younger to invest in. But when you're younger, a lot of people struggle, and I struggle pretty much through my life, paying bills and just kind of living check to check. So those people would have, like I said, they would have a pension, they would have some type of savings of some sort, an investment of some sort. They would have potentially a sizable amount of Social Security coming in as well. And then in addition to that, what I mentioned about being divorced and single and broke at this age, they would also have their spouses, right? So they would not only have their 3 streams or 4 streams of income, but their spouses as well. So now they have 5, 6, 7, 8 streams coming in at retirement and doing pretty well. An average couple could be bringing in 5, 6, 7,000 a month or more. So getting back to what I was talking about, being rated, typically as a veteran, if you're rated through the VA through disability, because there are certain things that happen to you in combat, certain things that happen to you that you witnessed, certain physical limitations that happen in the military, but then transferred into civilian life and got worse over the years, you are rated for that at a certain percentage. So a typical 100% rated veteran would be bringing in about $4,200 a month. Just for that. Forget the pension from a job that they might have, forget Social Security, forget any savings that they have. Just from the VA, they would be getting $4,000 a month. And as I mentioned on the other video from a few weeks ago about my struggle to get rated, I didn't know when I got out, it was the early 80s, and I had no idea about the rating system that the VA does, and about the injuries that you sustained or some traumatic type of event that you sustained when you were in the military, and that you could get compensated for that. Had I known that, I would have signed up for that literally decades ago, but I didn't know about it. I only found out about it literally 2 years ago. I only knew about it 2 years ago, and I'm 65. So I went through my whole diatribe about the confusion of getting rated and all the hurdles that I had to go through and all that stuff back last year. Actually, it was late 24 that I actually put my intent to file. And I went through that whole process in my other video. You can go in my channel and find that video. So I won't talk about that. What I came on camera today specifically about is I got my rating. I finally got my rating. It's been 15 months from the time that I put my intent to file in to today. Actually, it was 2 days ago. The VA sent me an email basically with a 12-page document PDF, not only telling me what my rating was, but also explaining why it was. And there are 4 different things that I had put in for. So first and foremost was tinnitus, because that's almost a given with my MOS. I was 11 Charlie, that's a mortarman. So I was exposed not only in basic training but AIT to M16s and grenade launchers, M203 grenade launcher on the M203 attached to the M16, the Claymore mine, into AIT with mortars, 81 millimeter mortar, and then the 4 deuce mortar. Just a lot of stuff, plus all the vehicles that are all in the military anyway, they're diesel vehicles, so transportation always happens with a deuce and a half. And then plus the Gamma Goats and the APCs and all these other types of equipment. And so that went on for years, exposed to that noise constantly, always, especially on field problems. And so it's like right up there at the very top 5 of MOSs that you would get rated for tinnitus. And of course, and I explained in the video that I posted earlier, I explained all the process you have to go through. Typically, the VA sends you to a third-party doctor of some sort or a nurse. And they have a checklist that they go by the VA, and they ask you certain questions and they test you on certain things or whatever the process happens to be. That rating is, or that evaluation is given back to the VA. And the VA makes their decision not only on that, but your personal statement about how it's affected your life, and then also or your own doctor, that with any luck they'll know what a nexus letter is, and that they'll issue a nexus letter on their stationery, on their professional letterhead and all that stuff, to substantiate your claim. Because that is the person who's going to advocate for you, not the one the VA sends you to. So all that being said, any rating that you get, any examination you get from the VA has to do specifically with all the different things that you've asked for. So the 4 things that I asked for was the tinnitus. That's number 1. Number 2 was I have a shoulder injury over by my scapula that happened. I was airborne at one point. And through my life and different jobs I've had, I've never been injured. But yet, about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I had a really bad pain in my shoulder. It was like that neck kink that you get where you can't turn your head. And there were movements that just caused me a lot of pain in my shoulder. Didn't know what it was. I thought it was arthritis. And eventually I went to the VA because it wouldn't go away. And my doctor did some x-rays, and she's like, oh, how did you break that bone back there? And I'm like, I've never broken a bone back there. And she said, there's some fusion that I can see in the x-ray where it was healed, where that bone had fused back or something like that. And I said to her, I'm not even left-handed. I can't imagine. Oh, and then it dawned on me. There are 5 points of contact, and I talked about this on the other video. When you land, there's 5 points of contact, and the last point of contact from, it's hard to explain, but anyway, the last part would be your shoulder or your upper arm. And so I'm convinced that I broke that bone, unbeknownst to me, when I was 20 years old on a jump. So that was orthopedic type of thing. And then my knee, my left knee, also hurts from time to time. In fact, about 5 or 6 years ago, I had also had some pain in my knee, and I had gone to my doctor, and she gave me naproxen. So I have 500, I think it's 500 milligram naproxen that I get anytime I want from the VA. And so when that pain flares up, I can take one of those, and it just knocks down the pain. But it's a Band-Aid. It's not a fix. It's just a Band-Aid. So those 2 things they consider separate, even though they're both orthopedic related. So they had sent me to an orthopedic doctor, although it wasn't a doctor, it was just a nurse, and their examination was really whack. Like, it wasn't intense, it wasn't a lot of questions or whatever. Like I said, the lady was just filling in the blanks. I was there probably 30 minutes. It took me longer to get there than it did for the exam. And I contemplated getting my own opinion, you know, paying an outside doctor to do a nexus letter for me, so that I could turn that in as well as my evidence. But I did write a personal statement. So eventually, the last exam that I was supposed to get was a psychological exam for PTSD. I had actually done one first because the American Legion near me had referred out this psychiatrist who does nexus letters, who knows what they are and does them, and what I heard, very, very well. And I met with her for 2 hours. 2 hours? About 2 hours. She was more intense with her examination. Yes, she still had to fill in blanks of the form that the VA requires and all that stuff when she's doing the exam, but she's also asking me questions and coming up with her conclusion. And she did a nexus letter as well. So I had done that first prior to the VA sending me to their third-party psychiatrist, which I went to see a couple weeks ago. And that was a horrible experience because that woman, I vetted her prior to going to see her, just by virtue of her phone number, because she had texted me about changing the appointment. So I knew who she was, and I knew that she had a practice, a legit practice, that she then also uses to moonlight with the VA. When I went to meet with her, it was supposed to also be 2 hours, but it was 1 hour and 5 minutes by the time I came in and left. She filled in all the blanks. She literally was just looking at her computer screen the whole time and filling in blanks. She didn't really do a deep dive. She didn't ask me a lot of questions, and she didn't ask me specifically what do I think caused, or what was the impetus of this PTSD. So I tried to interject some of that into her. Even I offered to read my personal statement, and she's like, yeah, that's not necessary, you know, I have all that information here and all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I didn't feel good about her at all. By the time and I'm going to say an interview, by the time the interview was over, I wasn't feeling the whole thing at all. And, you know, when I got up, you know, to leave and she put her hand out, I didn't even shake her hand. It was whack. It wasn't the way that it should have gone, in my opinion. All that matters going up to now 2 days ago. I get my rating. Yay, I'm so psyched that I finally got a rating. Part of getting rated through the VA is getting into the system. You see, once you're in the system, it's a little easier to push back or push up. Push up meaning that you can get a higher rating for certain things that maybe they rated you too low, but now that you're in the system and already rated, now you can push to get it increased. But also because now you're in the system and they give you a rating, you can push against that rating. So at the end of all of that 15 months from the time I signed up, they came back with a rating for 10% for tinnitus, which is the highest you can get. They don't give anything higher than 10%. I got 15% for the knee, and I got 15% for the shoulder. So I have a total of a 40% rating. I'm psyched about that. I was expecting a little bit more, and they gave me a 0% for the mental, for the PTSD. And they told me why they gave me the 0%. And that really amounted to me disclosing in the past about, you know, my childhood and, you know, some other stuff as a teenager, which I know now I should have never talked about. I didn't believe I talked to her about it, but be that as it may, the VA is blaming my PTSD on that rather than them, which is bogus, and I'm going to appeal it. The PTSD rating is usually your best shot at getting 70, 80, 90, 100%. And I'm only at 40 with this other stuff. The 40% amounts to about $800 a month. $800 a month? With me being poor, meaning I don't have any liquidable assets, except, like I don't have a savings account with a boatload of money. I don't have an IRA. I don't have a pension from a company. I don't have any of that stuff. All I have is Social Security. So that $800 a month means a lot to me. I was hoping to get 1,000. That was my mark, and I almost reached that. But I think the PTSD rating was felonious. I know I'm going to be appealing that decision, and I'm going to, out of my pocket, have to go pay another psychiatrist or two to get other letters together, and including maybe one from my ex-wife. I was married to her for 25 years, and so she'll be aware of my anger issues that yeah, so there was that. And then there's YouTube University, because you can find a lot out about appealing decisions like this and what information you can bring forward for an appeal. But I kind of want to put this video out there because I think it's important that other veterans know some of the stuff that I'm able to tell now that I've gone through what I've gone through. And I'll do a follow-up on the appeal process and all the hoops that I have to go through, because trust me, anything to do with the government is always going to be hoops and T's crossed and I's dotted, and yeah, it gets complicated and it gets arduous because they don't make it easy. They do not make it easy to do any of this stuff. So the work that I did do, I'm appreciative. The other thing I'm appreciative, the money that you're allotted, that I'm going to be getting on a monthly basis, is retroactive. So from 15 months ago to today, I get all that money as if they had already given me the rating 15 months ago. So typically, a PTSD rated at 100%, and they're making $4,200 a month, and I'm waiting 15 months, is getting that check in one lump sum. So you do the math, but you're talking about 20 grand or more. 20 grand? Oh, hell no, sorry. Whatever the math is, 4,200 times 15, you do the math. So they're getting that first check retroactively, which is a good thing. I appreciate that. But it's also a good thing that I have that stream of income now through death. Like, I just appreciate that with the limited funds that I'm able to make happen on a monthly basis. That's really very helpful. And yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. I'm not going to go on and on for an hour like I have on my other videos, but I will definitely do a follow-up. I'm not going to procrastinate. I have a year to file an appeal, but I'm going to need at least a couple of months to get some more evidence together to bring forth. And once I've done that and I've made my final appeal and all that stuff, I'll do a follow-up video, as well as what their response is going to be. And hopefully they'll send me to another C&P examiner that will be better this time. So that's all I can hope for. If any of this information is helpful, I appreciate. It doesn't cost you a dime to hit the like button. It doesn't cost a dime to subscribe. So do all those things, subscribe and like and share and blah, blah, blah. But seriously though, subscribe. Just hit the subscribe button. You'll get notification of videos every time they pop up. Anyway, have a good weekend, guys. Well, it's a weekend for me coming up. Later.